have before you a man who was quite a personage in his way. Truscott of the Yard. Never heard of Truscott? The man who tracked down the limbless girl killer? Or was that sensation before your time?
Who'd kill a limbless girl?
She was the killer.
How'd she do it if she was limbless?
I'm not prepared to answer that question to anyone outside the profession. Don't want a carbon copy murder on our hands. Do you realise what I'm doing here?
No. Your every action's been a mystery to me.
That is as it should be. The process by which the police arrive at the solution to a mystery is, in itself, a mystery. And we've reason to believe a number of crimes have been committed under your roof. There's no legal excuse for a warrant. We had no proof. However, the water board doesn't need a warrant to enter private houses, and so I avail myself of this loophole in the law. If your own good authority behaves in this seemingly alarming fashion, does my explanation satisfy you?
Oh, yes, Inspector. You have a duty to do. My personal freedom must be sacrificed. I've no further questions.
Good. I shall now proceed to bring the crimes to light, beginning with the least important.
What's that?
Murder.
The circumstances of Joe Orton's death were as bizarre as anything in his plays. The author of Loot and Entertaining Mr. Sloane was battered to death at the height of his career by his lover, Kenneth Halliwell, in their one-room flat at Knowle Road, Islington.
Did you go to the flat?
Yes, I went to the flat, yeah. Yes, it was terrible. Well, the police inspector at the time, he says, asked me if I was squeamish. He said, because it was in a terrible state, really. It looked like somebody had been throwing red oxide over the wall and the ceiling, that's how bad it was. But I never seen John like that. Obviously, when I went down to identify him, he was sitting up in bed with a bandage around his head. There was no bruising on his face whatsoever. Because he must have been laying face down, I think, when Kenneth went crackers.
For 15 years, Joe Orton and Ken Halliwell had lived and sometimes written together in their shabby bed-sitter in North London. They'd shared everything except success. But on August the 9th, 1967, as John Lahr, their biographer, puts it, murder made them equal again.
When I started writing Prick Up Your Ears, I very much wanted to come down Knowle Road just to get a sense of the world that Orton and Halliwell lived and wrote about, a world of no circumstances. And I remember walking in the door, the smell of ammonia on the linoleum, the wallpaper which was peeling, and it was a rather dilapidated, sad feeling one got. In the sheds at the back there, Orton and Halliwell had kept their bikes, where they used to take sorties out and around London to look at the architecture to go up to Hampstead Heath. When I got to the top floor, I didn't want to go in, because the house was reoccupied and had been redecorated. And I had a very strong feeling about that room.
I came home and I looked up at my bedroom, which is above here, and the lights were out. And I thought, oh, thank God they're asleep. But I saw their light on. I thought, that's strange, the boys, because I always call them the boys. The boys having their light on at this time of the night. I got up in the morning, got my son off to school. Aldi came down. By the way, Eleanor, he said, I saw Joe at 7:30 last night, and he told me he was going down to meet the Beatles manager, and if everything went well, he would be signing a contract for £100,000. He said when he comes back, he's going to come in and let us know how he's got on. When I came back in the afternoon, there was the BBC, the ITV, the police. I thought, goodness me, he's really had a hit. I was so thrilled for him, and I came to the doorstep, and I looked at Aldo and I said, oh, it's all happened. Let's come inside. I said, he's had a hit. He said he has, he's dead. I just couldn't believe it, because while we were in the kitchen, They were dead upstairs. They'd been dead I don't know how long. Both of them.
Halliwell, whose bald head was just visible through the letterbox, had taken 25 Nembutols, which he'd swallowed with a glass of grapefruit juice to make him get into his blood quickly. Orton had his head, in the book, I say, was cratered like a candle, and from the coroner's reports, that's indeed what happened. There was an estimate of 9 blows with a hammer. There was a note on Orton's diaries that said, if you read this, especially the latter part, all will be explained, K.H.
What happened that night, to me, is still a mystery, and I really never could believe that he would have done a thing like this.
No.
Because I think Joe would always have been with Ken, would always stay with Ken and thing, because I think they were two that, probably if they did row, but I think they were two that would still have kept together, no matter what happened, you know, whether he went forward or dried up or whatever. I think he would have stuck, and they were both stuck together. But whether the other chap didn't think this, I don't know.
He must have had some sort of a fear.
I think it was fear.
Must have
Could
had.
have been some sort of fear.
A fear of what?
A fear of losing Joe.
When we got home, we talked about ourselves and our relationship. I think it's bad that we live in each other's pockets 24 hours a day, 365 days of the year. When I'm away, Kenneth does nothing, meets nobody. What's to be done? He's now taking tranquilizers to calm his nerves. Monday, May the 1st. Kenneth H. had a long talk about our relationship. He threatens or keeps saying he will commit suicide. He says you'll learn then, won't you? And what will you be like without me? We talked and talked until I was exhausted, going round in circles. He said he wasn't going to come away to Morocco. He was going to kill himself. I've led a dreadful, unhappy life. I'm pathetic.
Well, this is where Halliwell said, we're living Strindberg. This is the dance of death. And where the fights occurred, and also, to some degree, where they had all their tremendous pranks. It was from that front window that they dropped prophylactics that they'd blow up as balloons onto the Cordon's hollyhocks and do all those pranks, which were, in a sense, typical of Orton's unmastered aggression, the kind of aggression that he mastered finally in his plays.
I'm not asking for my handbag back, nor for the money you've stolen. But unless my dress and wig are returned, I shall file a complaint with your employer. You have until lunchtime.
She'll be sodden before long.
Have you a family, sir?
No, my wife felt that breastfeeding might spoil her shape. Though from what I remember, it would have been improved by a bit of nibbling.
Ah!
She's a fine example of inbreeding amongst the lobelia-growing classes. A failure in eugenics, accompanied by a liking for alcohol and sexual intercourse, made it most undesirable she become a mother.
I hardly ever have sexual intercourse.
You were born with your legs apart. They'll send you to the grave in a Y-shaped coffin.
My trouble stems from your inadequacy as a lover. It's embarrassing. You must have learned your technique from a Christmas cracker. Rejuvenation pills have no effect on you.
I never take pills.
You take them all the time during our lovemaking. The deafening noise of your chewing is my reason for never having an orgasm.
How dare you say that? Your book on the climax in the female was largely autobiographical. Or have you been masquerading as a sexually responsive woman?
My uterine contractions have been bogus for some time.